Hi, everyone. This is Jessica Pettit, and who do I have the pleasure of interviewing today?
Hi, my name is Yasmin Virani. I live in Washington, D.C. I am a mother to two beautiful kids, a wife, and professionally, I am a diversity and inclusion strategist. And my third baby is my wonderful podcast that I launched last year. It's called Brown Colored Glasses, and it is all about aspects of diversity within South Asians.
Excellent. Make sure we get those links too so we can promote your podcast. That's amazing. So, the way that this works, as everyone maybe knows by now, is I ask exactly the same questions of everyone. But what's so fascinating is how different all the answers are. So, the first part are two kind of concepts that are rolling around in my brain. Good luck. But I'm curious how these land on you. So, the first one is about diversity dividend. So the first time I ever heard this was a client was talking about like, well, what's the profit margin on doing diversity work? What's the diversity dividend? And there was kind of a feeling to me about that, but it is also kind of an interesting like way of entering a conversation about the payoff of the investment of DEI. So there's no wrong answers, but diversity dividend, how does that land on you?
So, very interesting concept. And considering, I've been in the diversity field for several years now, started off as a consultant within human capital. So, thinking about all aspects of the human capital life cycle, all the way from onboarding to retention to exit, and then transition in my career towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so it's interesting because as I was getting more educated in the field, there was a lot of literature and a lot of materials on this aspect of what you just mentioned, the diversity dividend. And I think if I had to sort of define that, it would be, for corporations, for organizations, for any kind of business, you have to think about it from the business aspect as well, right? So your profit and loss, your revenues, and things like that. That's really, front and center of the minds of, the leaders of an organization, the executives. So when you're thinking about diversity, what automatically comes to mind is, okay, well, how is diversity going to help me, get to the bottom line, right?
Mhm.
And to me, when I was studying for, the certification I got, there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of data and information on that, which is wonderful, right? The whole idea that diversity and focusing on that will also enable corporations to do well. But I also think there's, another side to the coin here, and it is also considering to do the right thing, right? Especially given what the world has just experienced in this past year and a half, with COVID-19 and really putting a spotlight on equity, and then of course all the racial injustices that we've also witnessed. It
Mhm.
really boils down to organizations and people in general realizing that it really is the right thing to do. However, I think the beauty of focusing on diversity is that not only are you considering the aspect of humanity and equality, but now by focusing on that, you're also creating dividends for yourself, whether it's in terms of, getting, the best of the best in terms of your employees, whether it's getting those innovative ideas, because now you have tapped into, the diverse minds of those diverse people.
Yeah. Well, on a kind of a little bit more of a personal note, the next concept is other duties assigned. Usually starts with like an asterisk. It's the last line of your job description. And what I have found is, as I've talked to people in your own work experience, there are times where you do things to build community, survive the workplace, etc. Those could be other duties assigned, but you've chosen them. And then there's the other stuff that you usually are not rewarded on, but because of where your office is located or an identity that you have, you're just in charge of planning the birthday party or something like that. How have asterisks other duties assigned showed up in your professional life?
So I would actually say that those quote unquote duties actually led me to my career within diversity, equity, and inclusion today. And I'll share with you what I mean by that. So, as I was working in the consulting field within, human capital and organizational behavior and things like that, an identity that I have is that of a woman, of course, as well. And so as I was, doing my work and being, a good employee and keeping my clients happy, I struggled with the fact that I didn't see others like myself so much reflected within the leadership community where I worked, or simply being given opportunities for career growth and doing things that they really wanted to do. And so that enabled me to actually start an employee resource group dedicated to women in that organization. And it was extremely beneficial, not only, for me internally, because that's what really drives me, but it was really good for the organization as well because it allowed that opportunity for those that wanted to be part of that group to take advantage of volunteering activities, to network with other senior executives or like-minded people. And really, especially now, the focus has been so much on employee resource groups within DEI. But like you said, it really has been, oh, this is your additional volunteer duty that you have
Mhm.
now been bestowed with. And really, organizations need to move away from that, right? It's great to have employee resource groups, and absolutely you should, but you should look at that as an integral part of your strategy.
Mhm.
Uh, Maybe even consider paying those people for the hours that they put in, right? Treat it with respect and the dignity that it deserves. And
Mhm.
that's what's going to enable that grassroots sort of forming within the organizations and really allow you to drive the innovation, those ideas that I had mentioned. So
Mhm.
circling back to my story and what I had mentioned at the beginning of this question, when I started that women's resource group, it really struck a chord with me. And that's when I said, you know what, not only do I want to do this as a voluntary aspect of work, but this is really what I want to do. And that's when I really shifted careers and focused full time on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mhm. Well, welcome to the bench. Uh,
Yay!
yeah, you're doing great work. Are you ready for my two favorite questions?
Yes.
So my first favorite question is, what have you changed your mind about lately?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be work related. It can be anything.
I changed my mind about. Um, So it's interesting, right? This is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I identify as a South Asian person, a South Asian woman. And it's recently with all the focus in the media and all the hate crimes towards Asians,
Mhm.
I initially was like, oh, well, am I an Asian too? Because I fall under South Asians, and I technically am. However, there is a distinction. So I think when, like I said, all of this news came out, and unfortunately, all of the crimes that we saw, I really took it upon myself to learn about Asians and their history, and what it is that was causing them to face all of these injustices as well. And so I had to make a shift within myself to sort of realize that even though technically I am part of the umbrella term of Asians, I'm really not. I can't say that, oh, as an Asian myself, I have been a victim to that, because I haven't, and I can't claim that. So that was a change of and a shift of a mindset that I had to make for myself.
Awesome. Next one is, what do you absolutely know?
I absolutely know that I don't know enough.
Hmm.
And by that, I mean, life is all about constantly learning, constantly evolving. and really seeking inside to figure out what it is that you want to be a part of or contribute to.
Mhm.
So now that I'm, kind of evolving as a person and I am in my mid 40s, I've come to realize that anything that I do, whether it's work related, whether it's, in my personal life, any aspect of what I want to do has to really resonate with me and has to make me feel that inner peace and happiness.
Mhm.
I can't just do stuff anymore just because, right? I can't just, for example, come out of college and get a job and just be happy about it because I have a job. Like I'm not in that mode anymore. I am now, I have to be very sort of intentional about what it is that I want to do and where I want to contribute my time. And the second part of that is if I've decided that that's where I want to be, and for me, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms of a professional sense, in terms of what makes me happy and joyous, then I know that to your question, I don't know enough. And it's a continuous learning process, but it's fun and I'm enjoying the ride.
That's great. Welcome. All right. Next up is the lightning round. Doo, 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 doo. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions from my icebreaker cards. You gave me 7, 30, and 24. I'll tell you in advance if it's easy, intermediate, or deep randomly according to me, and then you answer them as quickly as possible. So number 7, I think is an easy question. And that is, if you were given $6,000 to plan your next vacation, where would you go and what would you do? And what a timely question after being sheltering in place for a year.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to book that vacation abroad. That will just blow my mind. But so last night, ironically, I was flipping through, I think it was Netflix or Amazon Prime, can't remember, and saw a documentary on Machu Picchu.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, wow, that actually looks really interesting. So it piqued my interest, and I'm kind of a history buff too. So I like learning about wherever I go in terms of the historical aspect and significance of it. So that's definitely on my list. I would, if I can add a few more, definitely on, sitting on a beautiful beach and just enjoying that kind of view and atmosphere is definitely on my list as well. I mentioned that I'm South Asian, and there's all these Bollywood stars that are like taking off to the Maldives, and I'm like, what's in the Maldives? Like it's my interest. So that's on my list. And Europe is always on my list. So my daughter is a big Harry Potter fan, and so we had promised her actually that we would have gone this summer to London and done that whole tour. But now, of course, with everything going on, we're likely going to go next year.
Awesome. I think that is a great answer. And I think being able to travel and just even go to Costco sounds amazing. So, okay. Number 30 is also intermediate. What material item do you currently have on your person that is of great value to you?
Okay, can you repeat that? I want to make sure I got it.
What material item do you currently have on your person that is of great value to you?
Like, as in what I'm wearing right now?
Mhm.
Oh, Apple Watch.
Mhm.
I'm always wearing it. It's become a part of me, and I think I know why, right? So besides, of course, the amazing technology gadget that it is that, lets me know how many steps I've done for the day and how many calories I've burned and all of that's great. But for me as a person, I am very sort of time oriented. Like I look at time as a gift, and I want to be able to know how I'm using my time. So of course there are days where I'm just, lazing around and doing whatever, but the days that I have that I am super productive, or at least I want to be productive, I'm constantly looking at my watch as well, because that enables me with a little bit of power to know how much time I want to devote to a particular area. So, yep, definitely Apple Watch.
Got you. Very cool. Okay, last one, number 24, also intermediate. If you discovered that you had 1 year left to live, what would you do?
So, a lot of people say, right, like the whole, going towards like your career and like just being in this zone of go, 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 right? Like I got to accomplish this. And this is, there's really no time for anything else. And like I had mentioned earlier, just evolving into who I am today and just where I am age wise, mid 40s, I've really come to realize that, life is a gift. The time that I have is really not enough. And, if I had that 1 year left, I want to focus it on the things that are important to me. So definitely family, would come first, and spending as much time as possible, not only with obviously my immediate family, but extended family as well. And beyond that, I would probably be like, I'm continuing my Brown Colored Glasses podcast because it gives me joy to be able to talk about these hard hitting topics from a South Asian lens. And for those that are listening to it, I hope to be able to reach them with the message that it's just important to be able to let go and think about those things that are important to you, and retain at the same time retain aspects of your culture while doing that.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit more about your podcast. And the last question is, if people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you? So can you tell us a little bit about where to find your podcast and if people wanted to follow your work?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, you can find me on LinkedIn, my personal page, Yasmin Virani. And then I also have a page dedicated to my podcast called Brown Colored Glasses. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find me there as well. But more than anything, if you as a person enjoys podcasts, I am streaming on all major podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, streaming live on all of them. And this way, if you subscribe to it, you'll get immediate notifications on new episodes. So those are the ways to find me. I'm well into season 2 of my podcast, brought on a whole new team of co-hosts. So it's been really cool to just record with the co-hosts and have a back and forth on, their perspectives, and we challenge each other, so that becomes a really fun conversation to listen to. And would love for people to start following me and reaching out, right? If there are topics that people want to hear about, please reach out to me and I would love to hear from you.
Wonderful. Well, I have loved hearing from you. Thank you very much for being a guest on my weird fake podcast. And I look forward to growing our networks and us all continuing to do this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this as well.